All right. The curse has finally been lifted. The Blues finally get a win while I am recording podcasts. I'm officially calling it now. I'm not accursed. The show is not cursed. The Blues get a win 3-2 over the Sharks. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to the Blues Rants podcast. As always, I am your host, Philip Miller. Let's dive into the 3-2 win against San Jose. Later on, we will discuss tonight's game against Buffalo. We'll discuss a local Illinois boy signing with Nashville FC today in the MLS Super Draft. We'll talk about that ridiculous Connor McDavid goal. It might have happened before the last episode, but we're going to talk about it now because that was absolutely insane. We'll get you our fourth and second last hint for the jersey giveaway. Remember, that giveaway coming up this Saturday live on our next episode. Talk a little bit more about Justin Williams and a little tidbit I found in today's 31 Thoughts, in case any of you read that. But we will start off here right around 5:58, starting a little early for you guys as puck drop for between the Sabres and Blues coming up in an hour and 2 minutes at Enterprise Center. The Buffalo Sabres and the St. Louis Blues facing off. But we'll begin with the 3-2 win against the San Jose Sharks. Like I said before, this was the game that you guys needed to win. They got it done 3-2. Wasn't the 3-0 shutout that I'm sure some of us were hoping in honor of Jordan Binnington's anniversary with the Blues, getting that 3-0 shutout last January 7th over the Philadelphia Flyers. But a win is a win. We will take it. No hard feelings there. I want to try and do a little bit of a deep dive more this time into the actual game, into some of the games scored, because I was actually able to watch or at least listen to on the radio side the most of, or if not all of this game. So just starting things off with the first period, kind of felt like a bit of a feeling out process between both sides. San Jose really peppered on some good chances early on Jordan Binnington, as they did in the second period. They had a pretty much a point blank chance that almost made it 1-0. That was probably one of Binnington's best saves of the game. Not a whole lot of offense going, I want to say, either way, although I think the Blues, really dictated their style of play throughout that first period. The second period, though, is the one that I really want to talk about, obviously, because we get the first goal on the board. Blues are, I believe, 19-0-5, I want to say, when scoring first. They have yet to lose in regulation when they score first, so that's obviously been a big plus for them the whole season. But we talk about the first goal, Tyler Bozak, courtesy of Alex Steen. I wanted to talk a little bit more about this goal because this is the main reason why Alex Steen still continues to compete so well at an elite level. I know he doesn't show up too much on the stat board anymore in terms of goals or assists or things like that. But if you look at how that play developed, so you've got two guys going up the left side of the ice. It's Tyler Bozak coming up with the puck first, going into the offensive zone. He looks and he's got basically two Sharks defenders right in front of him, pitching pretty hard over to the blue line. Looks like it's going to be a routine chip and chase. Not so. Gives it back to Tyler Bozak. Tyler Bozak wants to try and carry it in himself and drops it off over to Alex Steen. Alex Steen carries it on further. He's about to immediately, this is all about in the span of 1 second, maybe a second and a half. In this second and a half, Steen receives the puck. He sees immediately the danger right in front of him. And rather than chip and chase, he watches as Tyler Bozak starts to travel right in behind him over from the left to his right side. And he's still at this point luring in both the defenders in this half second right here. So it immediately turns into a little give and go play. Gives it right on back to Tyler Bozak with a really nice backhand pass. I believe it was between the legs too, just for good measure. But that's a really underrated play in my mind, just for the immediacy and the impact that it had on that exact 1 second and a half. He brings in both defenders. Now all of a sudden, just like that, Tyler Bozak's got a little bit of real estate to shoot with the puck, and he does so, ringing it top cheese over the goaltender. So that puts them up 1-0. Again, the Steen, Bozak, Thomas line, or really, Tyler Bozak in particular, has been exceptional the last 4, 5, 6 games. Sometimes they've been the best line on the ice. And it's really been paying tremendous dividends. It's hard to believe sometimes that these guys are only on the third line. But going now into the next goal, you see we get a good sense of why Craig Berube is going to be the coach of the Central Division for the All-Star game, because we all know what lines can get a good injection of offense when we really need it. And he throws over Ivan Barbashev and Oscar Sundqvist along with Mackenzie McEachern, the fourth line. You'd think maybe you want to put you in your top scoring line to try and pour it on. But no, he throws in this top physical line, this quick, young, rather speedy line of Sundqvist, Barbashev, and McEachern over. Good intercept in the neutral zone. Ivan Barbashev gets alone on a breakaway, misses the first shot, and then this is where this fourth line comes into play so well. And really, any fourth line, whether Troy Brouwer's in there, whether Jacob De La Rose is in there, sometimes whether even like Zach Sanford is in there, for example. This line just has no quit to their game at any point. So Barbashev gets in alone on this breakaway, misses a shot, goes over into the near corner. Rather than it just turning into another little set play that the Blues are so good at doing, Oscar Sundqvist immediately jumps in, gets immediately on the forecheck, strips the puck almost easily. I mean, if you watch the tape of that of the turnover there, the San Jose player almost never even sees him coming, and it turns into a little strip of the puck, gets it right back over to Ivan Barbashev, who'd been patiently waiting in the slot. He gets a second chance and buries it this time. Ivan Barbashev scores to make it 2-0 for St. Louis. Now, those two goals, only a minute and 20 seconds apart. Just less than 90 seconds apart from each other. That is the type of momentum shift that you need to have if you want to start winning these games. I say that because there were momentum shifts all over in the loss against Vegas in overtime. And it all started with one tiny little scrap between Max Pacioretty and David Perron. And then they furthered it with Ryan Reeves getting in there, getting physical, and obviously then getting the goal. Then Paul Stastny scores. Then the momentum is now entirely in Vegas' favor for the remainder of the game. Blues managed to tie it in force overtime, but tiny little details like that, just the smallest things, can switch the momentum so quickly, just like that. And San Jose, that's a team that you want to do that to, because I believe if I'm looking at the situational report for the Sharks, not too many come from behind wins, if I recall correctly, looking at it. So any games when they're trailing when the opposition scores first, 5, 17, and 1. When they are trailing after the first period, 1, 13, and 0. When they are trailing after the second period, 1, 17, and 0. So just basically one comeback win. That's a huge thing to realize when you're up 2-0 over the San Jose Sharks. Now the Sharks do get back into it, and that's what I think is going to be a big discipline for tonight against Buffalo. The penalty kills got to get better. I think honestly, both sides of the game, both sides of special teams have to get better for the Blues tonight. Obviously, they allow that power play goal. Now they're back into it. Now it's 2-1. They also allowed a shorthanded goal. I understand that San Jose is the number 1 PK in the league going into that game. But again, another huge momentum shift. It's little critical moments like these that make it so important to try and either take games or allow your opposition to crawl back in. And I think that's one aspect that I think the Blues have kind of struggled with here and there, whether it be, those goals allowed in the first minute, those chances allowed in the first minute. There was one there allowed in the second period. Whether it's crucial penalty kills or power play goals that need to be scored, whether it's ending the period on the right note. We saw in Colorado, I think both periods, they scored in In the first and second period, I believe they scored in the final minute there. They may have even scored in the first minute of one of the other periods if I'm trying to recall my memory. But it's those tiny little details and those really clutch moments that come into factor when you're discussing how the momentum shifts in an entire game. And there's score effects and things like that that can come into play, and we'll get into that a little bit further. But I think just tiny little moments like that are what the Blues need to capitalize on at all times, and that's what I thought was the most optimistic thing about seeing Craig Berube's style of coaching. He doesn't throw on Perron, O'Reilly, and Guy, in this case, Zach Sanford. He throws on that injection line that we've seen all season of Barbashev, Oscar Sundqvist, and Mackenzie McEachern. And by the way, I think Mackenzie McEachern has my bid for the most improved St. Louis Blue this season. Last year, I would have given it to Oscar Sundqvist, far and away. He had a breakout season last year, very vital part to winning the Stanley Cup, and he's repeating that success this season. But Mackenzie McEachern, I still just, for a fourth liner, I just find him to do so many of the right things, whether it's getting nice and physical, whether it's, just being there at the right place at the right time for these little offensive surges. And there's a lot of times when the rest of the offense is not stepping up. He's the guy that steps in there. He just rips a shot on. He gets another offensive face-off. He gets something going. And that's what I think part of the Blues' depth has worked so well for, is that they may not score goals all the time. You're not going to see De La Rose on the score sheet every night. You're not going to see McEachern on the score sheet every night, at least not in the positive factor. But the Blues' depth players, for what it's worth, I don't want to say buy time, but for lack of a better term, they quote-unquote buy time. So we know how well the Blues operate in the offensive zone. They wear you down. It's not an exciting style of hockey, but it scores goals, and it's what eventually gets the job done, lucky or not. But the Blues, for all intents and purposes, they wear you down. They just continue the time in the offensive zone. And then once that puck freezes, that's when you get 90 on there. That's when you get 57 on there. That's when you get 27 on the ice. And then you actually have a much better chance at scoring the goals. That's where I think the Blues' main part of success has worked so well, and that's why I really love all the effort shown by the third and fourth lines in the last few games, especially that of Mackenzie McEachern, Tyler Bozak, and Robert Thomas have really been sensational together the last few games, and we'll see if they can keep that up tonight against Buffalo. Like I said earlier, key to winning tonight's game in Buffalo is got to be the special teams discipline. Obviously, they allowed that shorthanded goal against San Jose. Again, that's a 3-2 game now. Now it's another open game. That was a real bad goal to allow. And even with San Jose's penalty kill being number 1 in the league, you can't be allowing shorthanded goals like that. And I know the Blues kind of allowed a couple at crucial moments last season. I mean, I think there were 4 shorthanded goals scored in the entirety of last year's playoffs, and the Blues allowed 2 of them. 2 of them of the 16 teams that were in the entire NHL playoffs. They allowed 2 of the 4 that we saw total during the playoffs. One, I believe, against Boston, the other against Dallas. I definitely remember the Dallas one. But to swing back and wrap up the win over San Jose, I really liked the shot there by David Perron for a couple of reasons. So the first goal, it's a quick little wrist shot from Tyler Bozak, puts the Blues up 1-0. Second goal, fourth line stays with it, gets aggressive on the puck, pinches in down low, and they get another goal off of a clean wrist shot. So right off of the faceoff, what does David Perron do? He just flings it straight to the net. He knows that it's not going to be another greasy goal. It doesn't have to be a greasy goal that gets scored on, who was it playing? Martin Jones? Yes, Martin Jones. So all he does is just a simple little fling wrist shot right off the faceoff dot. He's still got a lot of screen traffic in front of him, and it goes in. That kind of sense, just to quickly understand and realize what kind of shots you need to be taking, That's the kind of stats that make a quality player. A quality player who should be in the All-Star game, should I also forget to mention. You got 2 more days, everybody. Vote for David Perron. Get him into the All-Star game. If Jordan Binnington can call out a whole crew of reporters I hope some of you saw that. If Jordan Binnington can call out a whole scrum of reporters to go vote for David Perron, and most of them haven't, I think you guys can log on to NHL.com/vote right now. Vote for DP57 into the All-Star game. It's a shame he's not already there. Again, you have 2 more days. I believe voting closes on January 11th. So get him into the All-Star game. How much fun would it be if you have Craig Berube behind the bench for the Central game and he throws over Ryan O'Reilly, David Perron, Alex Pietrangelo, while Jordan Binnington is in net for this 3v3 hockey? How stupid and how goofy and how much fun would that be? That would be just nuts. I'd love to see that. But it only happens if you vote for David Perron. Get him into the All-Star game. He deserves it. We'll move on now more to the Buffalo game. Discipline, I've already talked about, needs to be on par tonight. Penalty kill needs to stay sharp. And I think the Blues power play needs to capitalize as soon as they get those chances. Buffalo's power play right now, penalty kill for Buffalo right now is 27th in the league, just under 75%. That's a 3 for 4. The Blues absolutely need to capitalize on power play chances when they get them. I think they need to play a sharp game, and if they don't, if penalties happen, which they always do, you need to be ready and focused for the penalty kill. Keep shots out of the danger areas. That was kind of a problem, I think, with the San Jose penalty kill. Keep stuff away from Jordan Binnington, who will be in net tonight. No changes in the lineup from what I saw today on the Blues website. Looks like the Schwartz, Shen, and Kyrou line will get back in there. Perron, O'Reilly, and Sanford, from what I'm hearing from yesterday's practices. Also, going back quickly to that 4th goal, that was not a goal because Kyrou was clearly offside. That's what you like to see from Jordan Kyrou. I think, just the offside was a rookie mistake, just got a little bit ahead of himself. Look back to the Nathan Walker, his first goal that was disallowed because he was offside by too much. Jordan Kyrou, for me, he's got all kinds of NHL potential from what we've seen him as a player so far. He's playing pretty good, I believe, through vicariously or alongside of Jaden Schwartz and Braden Shen. It's not often that you get a prospect immediately jumping up to the second or top line. But with Jordan, I think there's a lot of skill sets there. I don't think they're all together yet. He's got really good puck handling. You've watched him strip the puck in that game against Colorado. There's lots of speed. He's a short, speedy player. He's obviously got a good shot from what we saw last night, but I don't think quite all of that has been put together just yet. I think he could still be better in his own end. But again, this kid is a rookie. I'm sure he'll do much better as the season progresses. I'm sure we'll be seeing more of him, if not alongside some of the top 6, then maybe the bottom 6. Who knows? And finally, we're getting the Blues healthy again. Although I say that Colton Parayko out again tonight, so Nico Mikkola will be back in. I try so hard not to say Mikko because it feels like there's so many Mikos in the league and not Nikos with an N. So like Mikko Koskinen, Mikko Koivu. I'm amazed that I haven't screwed up Nico Mikkola's name yet. But he will be in alongside Robert Bortuzzo tonight as Colton Parayko is still dealing with whatever this little upper body injury happens to be. Carl Gunnarsson skating with the team again. He could be in probably at any time. He's still trying to find his legs again, though, after being out for a couple of weeks. And, of course, we have Sammy Blais returning post-All-Star break, which will be very fun. So that'll be just about it for teeing up tonight's game against Buffalo, really the big thing is special teams, penalty kill, and power play need to be sharp at the most critical moments. We will move on. Little bit of news yesterday. Justin Williams is back in Carolina after he took a brief hiatus for the last few months after the conference final exit last year against Boston. Justin Williams is back and signs a pretty reasonable deal with the Carolina Hurricanes. And it's interesting to me, all the stipulations that come with it. And I'll have to actually look them up here because there's something I think, I believe $100,000 if he plays the first 20 games, another $150,000 in the bonuses if he plays for the remainder of the season. I believe $250,000 if he wins the Stanley Cup, and another $250,000 if he wins the Conn Smythe. So, I mean, that's a pretty good payout right there if they manage to go pretty far, which is possible. Carolina has been, again, really good despite losing their captain, who is now Jordan Staal. But $700,000, mostly a lot of incentives and performance bonuses. Obviously, you like to see Justin Williams come back into the game. Justin Williams is so fun, and I don't see him going anywhere else besides Carolina. I think that's just really the only thing that makes sense. But coming out of retirement, he's back in the game. Looks like he's excited to play again, and it looks like his team will probably be postseason bound the way things are going right now. So, with all that being said, we break down the Connor McDavid goal. Psych! We'll get you your next hint for the Jordan Binnington jersey giveaway. Every episode so far, I've been giving away a clue to revealing the identity of a current or former St. Louis Blues player. On Saturday, the hour before puck drop against the New York Rangers, 6 p.m. Central Time, you will have the chance to message us at Blues Rants for your chance to win a Jordan Binnington jersey. We've got 2 to give away, one for Facebook followers and one for Twitter followers. Today's clue: this current or former St. Louis Blue is one of 9 different players to wear number 40. One of 9 different St. Louis Blues to wear the number 40 for the St. Louis Blues. So that's going to be your clue. We'll get right into the Connor McDavid play. Everybody in the NHL has been talking about it. Every media member that covers hockey has been talking about it. I haven't been a hockey fan for incredibly long, if you can determine anything by the length of these podcasts. I've seen a lot of pretty goals. I've looked on YouTube at a lot of pretty goals. You know, Tarasenko's dandy against New York back in 2014 comes to mind as a biased favorite. Ovechkin's Dangalicious years ago. The no-look goal that he scored against Arizona, that wacky, wild goal that he scored while he was basically down on his feet, on his back, not even looking at the goal. There's insert Jaromir Jagr highlight here. There's Oh Baby from Mario Lemieux. There's him literally just stick handling his way through Raymond Bourque. This, to me, is the most incredible goal I have ever seen scored. I got to give it to my bid. The Alex Ovechkin one, the no-look one on Arizona, or Phoenix at the time, is a close one, but the speed, the skill, the everything about this goal was absolutely marvelous. It was nothing short of just ghastly. And I want to talk a little bit more about why it was so good. So if you look at the play, and I might be able to try and share a link of it here on Twitter at least, but so Connor McDavid's got the puck deep in the neutral zone. He's picking it up deep in the neutral zone, and he starts his pivot to get back into the offensive zone. Now, before he even gets taken off, he's looking around. The moment basically the moment he's pivoted, before he's even turned around fully, he's already got his head around looking over what his options are. That's the first thing. That's an incredible, tiny, little minuscule detail of hockey skill that I don't think a lot of people realize or appreciate. So he's deep in the neutral zone. Starts moving up the ice, which he's literally the fastest skater on the planet. He's inhumanly fast. The whole time, right up until about he gets to the top of the face-off dot inside of Toronto's zone, he has his head back. He's looking over his options. He can see he's got his wingers still back on the play with some of the other forwards, and he's already a few strides ahead of them. So now he finally turns his head over to one defenseman, Morgan Rielly. And you can't bash Morgan Rielly for this play. You can't call him a bad defenseman on this play, because how can you? Like, how can anybody stop that? You know how anybody can stop Connor McDavid? Just like back in the OHL when there were 3 guys on him at all times. Like, remember back in the day? Remember back when we were stacking 3 guys up on Patrick Kane just so he couldn't score a freaking goal back at the height of the Chicago Blackhawks? Remember that? This is a lot of the same thing. You can't stop this guy unless you just have the whole squad just shutting him literally down. And he might still beat you anyway. So he's getting in on Morgan Rielly. And it's so incredible. This is all, again, just in the span of a few seconds, if you watch it frame by frame. It's so incredible how deceptive Connor McDavid can be with his speed, because in a literal snap, in one instant, on skates, he is at a mediocre, decent pace to start, and just like that, he just explodes. He just explodes in pace, and that's exactly what happened. He has an absolutely sickening, just a filthy dangle on Morgan Rielly, and just immediately blows past him. And what's funny the whole time, so like I mentioned before, he's looking back for his options. He's wondering to see if he can make a pass. Guys, he's not making a pass. He's not making the pass. He's selling this move the whole time. He's got Morgan Rielly the whole time in his peripheral vision. He's looking back, and all of a sudden now there he is. Just like that, in that split second, faster than I can even describe it, he has blown past Morgan Rielly, absolutely just buries a beautiful, almost one-handed. It was almost one-handed, like Tarasenko's little tuck-in pass. A beautiful one-handed backhander on the goaltender, Freddie Anderson. And if any of you guys know anything about the Toronto Maple Leafs, I like to follow them a lot. Obviously, they're kind of like the Yankees of the NHL. I like how they I like the thought that they're like the bankroll of the league. That always makes me laugh. Like we can only exist because Toronto exists or whatever. But if you've ever been to the Leafs arena, acoustically it's one of the worst. You wonder, you hear like the sound of a goal being scored or the goal horn or something like that, which is very similar to the Blues goal horn. But a side note, if you ever listen to the crowd reactions when a goal is scored at the Maple Leafs arena, it's nothing exciting, really. You never really get the crowd noise like you would say at a place in Boston or at United Center in Chicago. It's for one of the bigger franchises in the NHL. When you hear Connor McDavid score this goal, the sound is almost unheard of, no pun intended. It's you had Toronto fans, diehard Toronto Maple Leafs fans, against their Canadian rival, the Edmonton Oilers, slack-jawed in awe. You had Toronto Maple Leafs fans applauding the absolute, just ludicrous goal that was just scored by literally the best player in the league right now. It was, every little instance about this was insane. Look it up on YouTube if you haven't already. If you haven't, shame on you. Look up this goal. You will see exactly what I'm talking about on why this is, now in my book, goal of the year candidate. Who knows what the next few years will bring for Connor McDavid, but that's definitely a goal of the decade candidate, I think, already. And it's already one of the best goals I think we've ever seen scored in the NHL. And I'm really not trying to sugarcoat it. It was just that phenomenal. Moving on. I wanted to give a small little shout out. Earlier today, the MLS Super Draft was underway, and from Caseyville, Illinois, one local Jack Mayer selected second overall to Nashville Football Club in the MLS Super Draft. He is a product of the University of Indiana. Just as a sophomore right now, the defender was once named the Big Ten Defender of the Year last season. He was selected for under 18 and under 20 international play for Team USA in, I believe, Slovakia and Portugal. And he actually went to the same high school that I went to, Althoff Catholic. He is a product of Althoff Catholic High School, tearing it up as a defender for the University of Indiana, and we will soon see him play for the Nashville FC for the MLS. He also had some time with the St. Louis FC, not part of the MLS yet, but he was also training for some time underneath their academy, their club over there. So big congratulations to Caseyville native Jack Mayer, who goes number 2 overall in the MLS Super Draft, and best of luck to you in Nashville. Moving on to my favorite news of the day as a Blues fan. Elliot Friedman with his regular 31 Thoughts blog. I looked at a lot of the 31 Thoughts. Again, Elliot Friedman is like the Woj, the closest thing to Woj of the NHL, Adrian Wojnarowski, the insider for the NBA. And at times that's both good and bad, because if any news is breaking, I turn to Elliot Friedman first. It's also good because I think it's, it can probably be unfair to other reporters. Like, Elliot Friedman was not the first to drop the Taylor Hall trading. That was Pierre LeBrun, if I have that correct. I'm pretty sure Pierre LeBrun was the guy that dropped it the moment it was confirmed. But anyways, the 31 Thoughts blog is probably the most read piece of hockey media today. Probably the most consumed now that Hockey Night in Canada is no more on Saturdays. But reading through all of his thoughts, and thought number 19. It looks like St. Louis is on track to be Minnesota's opponent in the 2021 Winter Classic. Yes, that's right. Sounds like the Blues are going to be the visitors in the 2021 Winter Classic going on at Target Field in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Fun for me because that's not too far of a drive from where I live, so I'm very excited about that. But Blues get more outdoor game. The last time was against the Blackhawks against Busch Stadium. Obviously, that was a wild time, a very fun event, and we'll get more of it in 2021, New Year's Day against the Minnesota Wild, another division rival. That should be a fun one. And we'll probably get new jerseys for the Winter Classic, which, speaking of jerseys, boy, oh boy. I went to school for design, so I don't even know how to begin with these all-star jerseys. They're bad. I'm sorry. I know there's a lot of opinions on them. They're just bad. I mean, I don't know where and when it happened that every single jersey has to be black and white and it has to be boring. I've never been more displeased probably with an all-star jersey. I'm okay with like the black and white one from last year, probably because none of the Blues were even really in it anyway, except for Ryan O'Reilly. But okay, like the 5 lines to represent a music scale, that's the best you can do. What happened to actually representing the city in the jersey? Like, are you gonna look at any of these all-star jerseys 10 years from now and be like, oh yeah, that was the one in Tampa. That was the one in San Jose. That was the one here. No, like, they're just so boring and just so uninteresting nowadays. And I really hope at some point they try and turn the corner, because for an event that's getting less and less attention. I want to say definitely in terms of TV audience, because the winter class or the All-Star game is really kind of a bore to watch on television. It's really only worth it if you watch it live. You have to be doing everything you can to try and bring viewers or bring butts back into the seats. And that's how you should be starting, is something as simple as the jerseys. So the fact that's really all they could do for the jerseys, it's just disappointing. And I hope at some point down the line I'm actually satisfied with an Adidas made jersey, because they're not having a good track record so far. Obviously, the Adidas jerseys for the Blues didn't change a whole lot, so they're all right. There's a lot of real bad ones out there, and there's a lot of so-so ones out there. The Winter Classic jerseys for Nashville and Dallas. Why is Dallas wearing beige? Why does Dallas have tan pants? I could go on for quite a little while on why the design of all these jerseys are so bad, but I'm not going to bore you with all that. Rather than bore you with that, I'm going to entertain you with a soundbite I wanted to play in the last episode. Thought about it for a little while, but I got to play it here. A lot of you have probably already heard this one. It's not sports related, but a lot of you have probably already heard about the fantastic comic Ricky Gervais at the 2020 Golden Globes. It was nothing short of just phenomenal. So for some context, Ricky Gervais has hosted the Golden Globes for a couple of years now, and as he said in his opening monologue, this was his last year, so he's basically just mailing it in. And he pulled absolutely no punches with some of his jokes, and this one is one of my favorite ones, obviously censored by CBC, but here is NBC, excuse me. I've been watching too much Canadian media. But here is one of the tail ends of Ricky Gervais' monologue from the 2020 Golden Globe Awards.
If you do win an award tonight, don't use it as a platform to make a political speech, right? You're in no position to lecture the public about anything. You know nothing about the real world. Most of you spent less time in school than Greta Thunberg. So, if you win, right, come up, accept your little award, thank your agent and your God, and...
So you can probably guess what he was saying there at the end and the part that was censored, but that was practically mild in all the jokes that he gave, not only in his monologue, but through the entirety of the show. It gave me a reason to watch the Golden Globes. I'm not one for all the big award shows, but Ricky Gervais telling it like it is, he is fantastic, and I love that stuff. Especially in today's day and age of political correctness here, there, and everywhere. And I didn't find anything overly wrong with it. I loved give a Golden Globe to whoever is cutting the camera back to Tom Hanks after every single joke, because Tom Hanks was not having any of it at all, and I found that even funnier. Perfect transition there done by the camera crews at the Golden Globes, just so I may add that. That's probably going to be it for this episode. We've got Blues Sabres coming up in 25 minutes. Next episode, 6 p.m. on Saturday. That's our big one. That's the night of the giveaway, so be sure to be tuning in. Thank you guys very much for listening. One final little shout out here. Got to give it to my guy Ray. Ray was the original founder of Blues Rants back a few years ago. Sadly, no longer with the page, but he's the one that gave me my start. I've been going with Blues Rants for almost a year now. It's been a lot of fun. But he was also once part of another Illinois/St. Louis, Missouri-based band, Via Sleep, if any of you have heard of it. All of his music is on YouTube from his Information Overload album. Just want to give a shout out to Ray. Just saying thanks, and hope you're doing well, man. But anyways, this is how I'll close out the show. My name has been Philip Miller. Thank you all for listening to the Blues Rants podcast. Here is Via Sleep with Screaming Kamikaze. See you Saturday.
Screaming